From Fox 8, this is breaking news.
He just loved his family. He was a great family man, a father, and a husband. And of course, a friend to all of us.
Heartbroken loved ones remember the victims killed in yesterday's series of crashes on Interstate 55 that involved more than 150 vehicles.
But now, oh God, it's so awful.
I can't see right now. This is really foggy.
Okay.
Fox 8 obtains 911 calls from drivers caught in the wreckage, including those asking for help.
And you said your truck is smoking.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are you okay?
Yes, ma'am. I think so. There's
Okay.
a lot of pain in my stomach.
Part of Interstate 55 is now open more than 24 hours after a series of pileups in fog and smoky conditions that killed 7 people and injured 24 others. The stretch of interstate that's closed is between Rudock and Ponchatoula.
New Fox 8 drone video shows that crews have cleared the stretch of interstate near the Manchac Bridge where more than 150 vehicles collided. You can see the flame-scarred roadway on the right side of your screen. Good evening, I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm Meg Gatto. We are hearing more stories of survival and victims helping victims as crews continue to clear the wreckage.
Chris Welty is live near the scene. Chris, any timetable on when the rest of the interstate will reopen?
Lee, Meg, no, there is no timetable on when this stretch of I-55 will reopen. DOTD crews have wrapped up for the day. Now, they did spend the majority of the day out here with some heavy equipment looking to clean up the interstate, and we do see a lot of people still utilizing US 51 as an alternate route until the road can reopen. New cell phone video shows the chaotic scene moments after the 150-car pileup on I-55. Following the crash, multiple people get out of their vehicles, some bleeding, holding towels around their cuts, others in disbelief that they survived.
I got some bruises, but I'm sore, but I'm lucky, one of the lucky ones, because they had a lot of fatalities.
Loretta Williams' SUV was hit multiple times and came to a stop after hitting an 18-wheeler.
The guy that was in the 18-wheeler, he was trapped in it. You know, his legs, both of his legs were trapped in it, and his truck was on fire. But they managed to get him out and drag him to safety.
Acadian Ambulance dispatched 18 ambulances and multiple supervisors. Chad Yusei was one of the first on scene.
I remember there was a light going on. I seen the 18-wheeler on fire, smoke coming from it. Then I seen, like I said, cars mangled up. I remember seeing just several people just on the side of the road just waiting for help.
Yusei has been a medic for 25 years. He witnessed everyday people helping the most injured until medics arrived.
There was a couple that was trapped in a vehicle. Somebody took their pickup truck and pulled the vehicle away from the fire, and then bystanders started coming with pry bars and power tools and actually came the couple out of the vehicle, and the fire department did show up while they was doing that, finally finished education.
UC says typically with this size catastrophe, AirMed would have been dispatched, but the fog and smoke were too thick.
Over 25 years, I think this was the largest crash I've been to. Just unbelievable, the amount of vehicles and patients we had.
I followed up with Miss Loretta Williams, who you met in my story. She was out here earlier this afternoon trying to find her totaled vehicle. She tells me that she did locate her vehicle at a tow yard in Kenner. She was not able to go to her vehicle to retrieve any of her belongings. She says the tow yard is requiring all of the crash victims to make appointments because there's so many charred and burnt out vehicles at their location and other vehicles that were just completely smashed and totaled during this crash. The tow yard calling their yard a war zone. Lee, Meg.
All right, Chris. One of the people killed in the I-55 crash was a beloved chef and father of 2. Friends and co-workers say the tragedy has devastated his family as they reach out to help family left behind.
Rob Masson has the story.
Out of the rubble of one of the worst crashes in recent memory, stories of lives lost emerge.
We are still in shock. To be honest with you, this is something that we never expected.
Qutub Neghi was a married father of 2 children, ages 10 and 14. He was pronounced dead at North Oaks Hospital nearly 10 hours after his SUV was caught up in the massive pileup on I-55 southbound Monday morning.
And he just loved his family. He was a great family man, a father, and a husband. And of course, a friend to all of us.
Neghi was also a busy executive chef at Indian restaurants in both Kenner and Hammond. He often traveled between both locations on I-55.
What was different yesterday, it happened all of a sudden, just after 6, between 6 and 7.
The pileup occurred in dense smoke and fog that rolled in about 20 minutes, as captured on causeway surveillance cameras nearby.
There were portions of the bridge that were 0-0, and I never hear that from my officers. In the 14 years I've been here, you always hear 100 feet, maybe sometimes 50 feet, but never 0-0. And these are officers that have been on the bridge for not a couple of days, but years and years.
Causeway traffic is back to normal today, but yesterday was anything but, as bridge officials describe a deadly fog, which they say rolled in a record amount of time, causing them to have to spring into action.
At one point, it would have been 60 or 70 people working on this.
The fog contributed to 2 crashes on the causeway Monday morning, in which 1 person was injured. That prompted a decision to close the bridge and put out traffic cones, as Carlton Dufresne worried about drivers on other nearby bridges on I-55 and I-10.
You do it long enough, you get a sense. Yesterday was not a good day.
Friends and relatives of Neghi wish more could have been done on I-55, 17 miles to the west.
Oh, his family needs everything because he was the breadwinner. The wife does not work. The children are in school, in private school. And, she needs all the support that she can get.
They now rally to support the family of a man they say was taken way too soon on I-55. Rob Manson, Fox 8 Local First.
And we have just learned from Louisiana State Police that the death toll has now reached 8 people. One of the people who was injured and taken to the hospital has now died. State Police also saying that 63 different people are being treated for injuries as a result of this crash. 168 vehicles involved in this wreck on I-55. And funeral services for Qutub Neghi will be held November 3rd. Friends and family have set up a GoFundMe account to assist a grieving wife raising the 2 children he leaves behind. The marsh fires that contributed to yesterday's dangerous conditions are still burning. Chief Meteorologist Bruce Katz joins us now with an update.
Well, the good news is that we had the wind that picked up. We were on the border of either seeing fog or the wind dispersing it. Right now, visibility is good. And I want to point out, we also have fires at Lafitte, not only at Bayou Sauvage, and we have some heavy rain falling over the Lafitte area, hopefully over that fire area as these showers move northwest toward Luling. That's pretty much it on radar. Tonight, that'll die out. And as we notice, first alert, we put it out for the potential of fog. We talked about the wind. If the wind picked up enough, it would disperse it and not be a big problem. Indeed, that did happen, so that's great news. These winds picked up, so it did kind of break up the fog. Fires are still burning, but with that wind, it really helped to mix things up. Look at the winds right now. Out of the southeast at 12 to 22 on average, and some of the wind gusts right now up to 30 at the lakefront, 30 at Gulfport, so the wind is definitely playing a big part in dispersing that smoke. 29, 24, 30, these are the actual high wind gusts since midnight, so that's great news. So once again, things are definitely settling down as far as that smoke for now, as we don't really see that plume on the visible satellite. Today we were in the 80s. We'll talk more about the heat, humidity, and not much rain either, coming up in your Weather Authority forecast.
All right, Bruce, we're hearing 911 calls to Tangipahoa Parish as car crash victims begged for help while stuck southbound on Interstate 55 near mile marker 15. The fear in some folks' voices may be hard to hear. Ashland Brothers reports.
I hit a dump truck. Okay. And I'm going to need a officer, someone to come out.
The 911 callers are clearly disoriented in a state of shock and confusion as they plead for the police to send help.
Your truck is smoking? Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Listen as a driver of an 18-wheeler musters up the courage to share her horror on the highway, stuck in a smoke-filled foggy abyss.
Can't see anything.
Okay. Is there multiple accidents in that area?
That's what the other guy was got out of his seat.
You can hear the panic in her voice growing.
And how old are you? 49.
49?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, did your airbags deploy?
No, ma'am.
She's overcome with emotion, trying to explain where she is and what happened. Seeing the mangled vehicles toppled on one another, digesting the death right before her eyes, and coming to grips with the gravity of this graphic and tragic turn of events.
Okay, and you said your truck is smoking?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, are you okay?
Yes, ma'am, I think so.
Okay.
A lot of pain in my stomach.
Okay. So do you need an ambulance to check you out?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Stay on the line. I'm going to let you speak with the ambulance, and we'll update the fire department, okay? One moment.
She's transferred to another line.
All right, you have any injuries?
Just pain in the stomach.
Pain in your stomach? Okay, are you trapped in your vehicle?
I was driving mine. I hit the back of someone. A driver 18-wheeler.
You were hit by an 18-wheeler?
No, ma'am. I drive a 18-wheeler.
Okay, so you were driving one of the 18-wheelers in the accident. Okay, are you trapped within the vehicle?
I'm sorry.
Are you trapped in the vehicle?
No, ma'am.
Some describe the scene as similar to a war zone, apocalyptic even.
Always nice for the apocalypse.
No, I don't want to burn up in here.
Hello?
Driving your vehicle over a pile full of dead bodies.
Hello? It's 911. I'm here.
Somewhere in the middle of the mess, an Apple Watch sounded an alarm.
Was in a severe car crash and is not responding to their watch. This message will repeat in 5 seconds.
Hello, Change Repair, Sean.
The owner of this Apple Watch was in a severe car crash and is not responding to their watch. The emergency location is latitude 30.2797, altitude -90.4006 with an estimated search radius of 5 meters. Repeat in 5 seconds.
A second Apple Watch also warned 911, allowing the operator to reassure a crash victim that help was on the way.
Are you on I-55 southbound around Manchac?
Yes.
All right, it's already been reported.
Car crash and is not responding to their watch.
Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Okay, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Help is on the way.
Now, that was just some of many 911 calls one of several call centers received. The operator kept saying over and over again the crashes had already been reported, and many of the callers shared how difficult it was to see and level with the uncertainty they were experiencing. Back to you.
All right, Ashlyn, we are monitoring breaking news on Capitol Hill as Republican Tom Emmer abruptly abandons his bid to become House Speaker hours after winning his party's nomination.
We'll look at what's next.
And we put out another first alert for this morning, but we did mention if winds picked up, the smoke would disperse. Fortunately, that did happen. We'll talk about the next several mornings and this heat and humidity, even a few showers on radar near Lafitte on those fires. All that and more coming up in your Weather Authority forecast.
We are covering breaking news tonight as the death toll from yesterday's pileup on Interstate 55 climbs to 8. State police say 63 others were injured in crashes involving 168 vehicles. Part of Interstate 55 is open to traffic following yesterday's series of pileups in fog and smoky conditions. The stretch of interstate that's closed is between Rudock and Ponchatoula. At this time, there's no timetable for when that section will reopen.
2 suspects are being booked today in the carjacking of Orleans Parish District Attorney Jason Williams. Maddie Kurth joins us in the newsroom with these breaking details.
Leah, law enforcement source tells Fox 8 that an arrest warrant was signed this afternoon for 2 teenagers accused in the carjacking of New Orleans DA Jason Williams and his 78-year-old mother last Monday night. One suspect, 18-year-old Ahmad Seals, has been booked as an adult with 2 counts of principal to an armed robbery with a firearm. The identity of his alleged 16-year-old accomplice will not become public unless his case is transferred to adult court. As Williams is the victim in this case, his office is expected to recuse itself and ask the state attorney general's office to prosecute the case. Police last Wednesday arrested 18-year-old Raymond Rochon III in connection with the case after NOPD detectives said he was caught the morning after Williams's carjacking driving a stolen truck used in the crime. He was booked with weapons and stolen vehicle allegations, but not with being present when Williams was carjacked. Williams and his mother were not injured after being forced from their SUV at gunpoint near the DA's Lower Garden District home.
Now, your Weather Authority forecast from Chief Meteorologist Bruce Katz.
Well, the good news this morning, we had the winds picked up and it kind of dispersed the fog and smoke with that super fog. So this morning, not much of a really big problem, but we were on the cusp. If those winds would not have increased, we would have had another morning of some thick fog and smoke. Right now, visibility looking pretty good. We're looking at partly cloudy skies, and check this out. Yep, we have a couple of showers from Luling down toward Lake Salvador and Jean Lafitte and Lafitte. And remember, we still have fires going on around Jean Lafitte and Lafitte itself. So hopefully some of this heavy rain is falling over the fire area to kind of squash it and hopefully bring it down a bit. Now, the Bayou Sauvage, that fire continues to burn, and that's where the smoke came from. We did put out last night another first alert for today, and the potential of stronger winds dispersing that smoke was in the cards, and indeed that happened. So this morning, we really had more issues heading up north and west toward Livingston and the Baton Rouge area, but as far as we were concerned, we had a little patchy fog, but fortunately, as those winds picked up, you can see how this fog just tended and also the smoke to disperse and disappear a bit. Now, we still see that smoke and also the potential of some of that smell moving in, but the good news, the winds, they played a big part in our favor. Southeast winds right now, 12 to 22 miles per hour, and right now we're gusting at the lakefront up to 29. So again, we have very strong winds helping to push that system out. On top of that, we had wind gusts up to 25 to even 30 miles per hour down at Belle Chase. During the day today, once again, we did see a southeast flow, but we did not see that morning plume of smoke and fog like we showed you yesterday from Bayou Sauvage. It worked toward the causeway, and then over I-55 and Lake Maurepas. This morning, that did not happen with very strong east and southeast winds. This morning, we had some upper 50s and lower 60s north, pleasant there, low to mid 70s at the lakefront, upper 60s at Kenner, and today up to 87 at the lakefront, 87 Bogalusa, 88 the record in 2001, today at 85. Where should we be? At 78. It is warm, it is muggy, and it's going to stay that way. Here's the reason why. Big upper high continuing to hold in. We do have a trough developing out west, and that trough, in combination with this high, is really starting to create a pressure gradient, meaning that pressure gradient creates a lot of wind. As a result, this morning, we did disperse that fog and smoke. On the outer edge of the upper high, this rain not moving east. Where's it going? Heading north and east, and that's not a bad thing. We need rain here, but we also need rain up the mid and lower Mississippi River Valley. Right now, the northern and central valley is going to get some rain with those tributaries that do drain into the Mississippi River. So certainly that's good news around here. We showed you that little lone shower, and right now positioned perfectly over Lafitte and Jean Lafitte. Hopefully it's near that fire where maybe it could help to extinguish it just a bit. Fox 8 forecast model tonight. Here's that persistent southeast wind. It'll be warm, it'll be muggy, but the winds even tomorrow, we are not going to issue a first alert for tomorrow morning because I think the winds like this morning will disperse a lot of that fog. So tomorrow morning's commute, you may see a little patch or two, but really not enough of an issue to update to that possibility. So once again, a few showers tomorrow. We're talking 20% or less. Really, I'm going to go mostly dry through the next at least 5 to 7 days. Here's that system out west with the upper high. We're riding right on the edge, but everything is moving off to the north and east, and unfortunately, it looks like it's not going to make its way here, and it looks like those temperatures will stay warm at least over the next 7 days. Rainfall next 7 days itself, Not a whole lot. Lightest of green, 7 days, a trace, 1/8 of an inch. But the good news, over the Mississippi River Basin, we do see some heavier rain moving in, so certainly we need that flow to come down. And over the next couple of days, high pressure holding in, warm and muggy. But we do have a little hope on the horizon. As we go into Saturday and Sunday, the upper high begins to weaken a bit, and by Monday into Halloween, it looks like we have a cold front moving in, and that will begin to bring those temperatures down a bit. In the tropics very quickly, we do have Tammy out there. Northeast moving once again pretty quickly, a Category 1, approaching Bermuda. That's pretty much it. Looks pretty healthy on the satellite, but right now, no issue for land at all. Right now, upper 70s and lower 80s. It's a warm one out there, and the next 7 days, not a whole lot of rain. But for Halloween, we start getting cooler as finally a front moves in. But until then, it looks like it's going to be warm and muggy out there. The good news, Lee and Meg, we talked about that wind. If the wind picked up, we would disperse this morning's fog and smoke. And indeed, it came to fruition, so that was certainly good news.
Yes, we did not need a repeat of yesterday.
We did not.
Thanks, Bruce.
Do that.
Israeli airstrikes kill multiple Hamas leaders as hostage negotiations continue. I'm Mallory Rivera in Jerusalem with that story coming up. Continuing our breaking news this evening, the death toll from yesterday's pileup on Interstate 55 climbs to 8. Louisiana State Police say 63 others were injured in crashes involving 168 vehicles.
She is totally devastated. She wasn't really able to speak much, and all she's doing is crying and just, thinking of what's going to happen. What's the future going to be like without him?
We're also learning more about one of the victims. 40-year-old Katoub Nagy was a popular chef who split his time between Indian restaurants in Hammond and Kenner. He was heading to work on southbound I-55 to get a jump on a busy day. He leaves behind a wife and 2 children.
The DOTD is still cleaning and inspecting the interstate.
New Fox 8 drone video shows the crews have cleared the stretch of interstate near the Manchac Bridge where 168 vehicles collided. You could see the flame-scarred roadway on the right side of your screen there. The interstate will remain closed between Rudock and Ponchatoula. Chris Welty is live near the scene of the crash with the latest.
Meg, yeah, all of those vehicles involved in the crash, they have since been removed from the interstate. And DOTD, as you mentioned, they've been working around the clock to clear the road and inspect it to make sure that it's safe for drivers. Now, they still have a lot more work to do. We're told that more inspections need to take place. And take a look at this drone video. It shows how bad the bridge was burned. After an 18-wheeler and multiple vehicles caught fire, we can see a spot also charred underneath the bridge deck. DOTD bridge inspectors will need to evaluate all aspects of the bridge, the surface, and piers to ensure that it is indeed safe. As you mentioned, more than 160 vehicles were involved in Monday's crash. 8 people are now pronounced dead and more than 24 injured. Cell phone video shows the chaotic scene following the pileup. Some got out of their cars, people were bleeding, holding towels around their cuts, others in disbelief that they survived. We're hearing lots of stories of those who had minor injuries jumping in to help the most critical victims until medics arrived.
There was a couple that was trapped in a vehicle. Somebody took their pickup truck and pulled the vehicle away from the fire. And then bystanders started coming with pry bars and power tools and started extricating the couple out of the vehicle. And the fire department did show up while they was doing that, finally finished extrication.
The guy that was in the 18-wheeler, he was trapped in it. His legs, both of his legs were trapped in it, and his truck was on fire. But they managed to get him out and drag him to safety.
Throughout the day, multiple crash victims came to the scene searching for their vehicles. One person located her SUV at a tow yard in Kenner. She said the yard is requiring those involved in the crash to make appointments to retrieve any personal belongings. Once again, at this time, there is no timetable on when this stretch of I-55 will reopen. Right now, US 51 is backed up as cars are utilizing that route as an alternate route to get to their destinations. Reporting live from Manchac, Chris Welty, Fox 8, Local First.
All right, Chris, 911 calls capture the race for help as one chain reaction crash followed the next.
So we're right on top of the Manchac Bridge. It's about a 40-car pileup.
A 45 vehicle pileup?
At least.
Fox 8 obtained 911 calls from Tangipahoa Parish as people pleaded for help on the highway. State police now say 168 vehicles were involved.
After months of coping with the impact of a saltwater wedge on water supplies in Plaquemines Parish, local officials will end bottled water distribution Friday. They've been operating distribution sites at the Boothville Venice Fire Station, the Buras Fire Station, and the Devant Community Center. Measures to bring down salinity in the water supply allowed the parish to lift its drinking water advisory on October 18th.
Terrebonne Parish deputies arrest a suspect in the rape of a child. They say the parents of an 11-year-old contacted the sheriff's office in May and reported a series of incidents over the last 2 years. Investigators say the suspect, 34-year-old Andrew Moore, moved to Nebraska, where he was arrested and extradited to Houma, then booked with 2 counts of first-degree rape. He remains in jail on $1 million bond.
Crews will soon begin building new affordable housing units in the 7th Ward. Today, New Orleans officials and developers broke ground on the St. Bernard Circle apartments across from the historic Circle food store. Most of the 51 units will be for neighbors with low to moderate incomes.
You know, the city of New Orleans has been in an affordable housing crisis perpetually for generations, where there are people who work across Rampart in the French Quarter, that work downtown, that work throughout the city, that as we speak, they have to catch 3 or 4 buses from outside of New Orleans to work in the city and are unable to live in the neighborhoods in which they grew up.
The apartments will also include a park that's accessible to the public, a performance stage, and retail space for small, local, and minority businesses. Construction is set to finish next fall. Efforts are underway to secure the release of more hostages taken 2 weeks ago by Hamas.
Meanwhile, Israel ramps up its airstrikes on the Gaza Strip. Madeline Rivera reports.
Israeli forces dropping leaflets over Gaza on Tuesday, asking Palestinians for information about hostages taken by Hamas. In exchange, they are offering a monetary reward and safe passage if the information is confirmed. More than 200 people were taken during that October 7th terror attack. An 85-year-old Israeli grandmother who was released on Monday describes the terrifying moment she was kidnapped.
She was taken on the back of a motorbike with her body, with her legs on one side and her head on another side.
Meanwhile, Israeli forces once again bombarded northern Gaza on Tuesday, taking out 3 Hamas deputy commanders with precision strikes. As infrastructure damage spreads, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu urged people to move south, warning this could be a long war.
When this is over, the people of Israel will rebuild their communities, and the people of Gaza will no longer live under Hamas tyranny.
And at a UN Security Council meeting on Tuesday, Secretary Blinken said efforts are underway to secure sustained aid for people in Gaza, adding humanitarian pauses must be considered to allow supplies into the region.
Hamas must cease using them as human shields. Israel must take all possible precautions to avoid harm to civilians.
Secretary Blinken says nearly 36 Americans were killed in that October 7th attack. In Jerusalem, Madeline Rivera, Fox News.
Well, today, 90% of us dry, but the lone few, a few showers from La Place down to Boutique, and even around Jean Lafitte, where some of those fires are burning south. That's good news there. What about tomorrow morning and fog? Right now, looks pretty good. We'll talk about that through the end of the week in your Weather Authority forecast.
The mayor of Maui announces the island will fully reopen next month, but not everyone there is ready. I'm Matt Finn in Los Angeles. The details coming up.
Scan the QR code or go to fox8live.com/saltwater for more information on the saltwater emergency. Sponsored by Stewart Services, AC, heating, electrical, and plumbing.
Turning to the recovery in Hawaii, all of West Maui, except for burned out sections of historic Lahaina, will reopen to tourism on November 1st.
Matt Finn has an update following the deadliest American wildfire in more than a century.
The Aloha State is gearing up for a big influx of tourists starting next month. Mayor Richard Bisson announcing all of West Maui, except burned out sections of Lahaina, will reopen on November 1st, following a soft reopening in October. Officials asked tourists to stay away following the wildfires in August, the deadliest in modern American history. But now they're getting ready to make more than 11,000 hotel rooms available, despite thousands remaining homeless after the fires swept through.
We're appealing to people's conscience, I don't know how else to say it,
to see if they will do what we think is the right thing to help someone. If you have a vacant unit and you know there's a family that can use it.
The state is now reimbursing residents up to $1,500 a month for putting up neighbors or other displaced people, part of a broader plan to get life back to normal on the island, despite lingering concerns about toxic ash left over from the fires.
I understand that people do have concerns, and everybody has the right, to their own feelings about the safety.
And while some residents drafted a petition opposing the reopening, others say they're ready to start moving forward.
The Lahaina of today and the Lahaina of the past 100 years